5 minutes of questioning. Mr. Carroll, Director Carroll, the Trump administration's drug control strategy says addiction is a chronic medical condition that affects the brain by causing distinct cognitive, behavioral, and physiological changes, correct?
Yes, sir.
And the strategy goes on to state, quote, increasing the availability of treatment services for substance use disorder will lead to a greater number of Americans achieving sustained recovery and reduce the size of the illicit drug market and demand in the United States, correct?
Yes, sir.
And yet, there's a significant unmet need, isn't there, for treatment in the United States. According to the strategy issued in January, your office points out, in 2017, an estimated 20.7 million Americans aged 12 or older needed treatment for substance use disorder, but only 4 million of those 20.7 million received any kind of treatment, and only 2.5 million received that treatment at a specialty facility. And of course, we could add to that, many of those so-called special facilities with respect to opioid are not appropriate. The treatment isn't efficacious. So that number even overstates how many people really got efficacious treatment. And that's from your report, which is really stunning data in terms of capacity and costs apparently being such important factors in people getting treatment.
Yes, sir. Thank you for the question. I think it's important to note a few things at the outset. Undoubtedly, there are millions of people, as we said, the estimates are 18 to 20 million people who have an addiction. Sadly, not all of them, and it's only a few percent that actually recognize and accept the fact, and we heard about it this morning, that are willing to go get treatment. And that's the estimate that we talked about of the people who are willing to get treatment. So certainly one of the things that we need to do is decrease the stigma to make sure that more people are willing to get treatment. Right now, the estimates are 10% or so of the people, even of that 20 million, even seek treatment. So first off, we need to increase the number that are accessing treatment. That's one of the things that we've successfully been able to do. You talked about effective treatment, and as I said in my opening statement, I'm very happy to report to the public and to the committee the number of people seeking treatment in the last year and a half or 2 years has gone dramatically up. But you're right, it's not up as high as we need to. And the types of treatment, and we heard about a bit this morning from one of the parents, not every individual is different. We have to recognize the relationship between a patient and provider. And one of the goals of the National Drug Control Strategy is to increase the number of treatment centers that offer medication-assisted treatment, MAT, by 100%. At the same time, we do have to recognize, as we heard this morning, some people who have this addiction do want to go to a facility where it is total sobriety, where that's not.
I'm going to have to interrupt because my time is limited, but thank you. Good point. If you read Dope Sick by Beth Macy, she points out 2/3 of all the treatment centers for opioid addiction in the United States still don't allow medical treatment, other drugs to take you down. That's a surefire recipe to getting on heroin or something worse. It just doesn't work. The success rate is in the single digits with that kind of treatment. And what we do know is the AA approach, go cold turkey, absolutely is life-threatening when it comes to opioid addiction. It might work for alcohol, it doesn't work for opioids. And that's why...
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
I mean, I couldn't agree more, except that I do want to... There are many patients who are suffering from an addiction to opioids who have found that MAT doesn't work and they want to go a 12-step method. We should just make sure that we don't force MAT on a patient. I think the doctor would understand, and we heard this morning from a father. Again, let's find the right treatment.
We want to stay flexible, but we also have data.
Absolutely.
And we know that MAT works 3 or 4 times better than cold turkey. And there are real risks with cold turkey. Real quickly, Dr. Rattay, you talked about people in your state, which has a little more than half the population of my home county, having 6,000 people who are not receiving treatment. I mean, that's, given the size of Delaware, that's a pretty stunning statistic in terms of what we're talking about here, in terms of people being able to get treatment, having access to clinics and rehab facilities that are efficacious.
Correct. And so although we have been able to increase the treatment capacity in our state, we know we're not where we need to be yet with treatment capacity. But also, as the director mentioned, engaging individuals into treatment is also incredibly important. And so one of our focuses in our state is using what we call reachable moments, such as when somebody has overdosed, when somebody's involved in the criminal justice system, or when a mother has had a baby, as 3 prime examples when individuals are most ready to become engaged into treatment, and then engage them very quickly into a system that really meets their own personal needs.
Thank you. I hope we have a chance to pursue that. Final question, my time is up. Director Carroll, I understand you had a conversation with the chairman of this committee, Mr. Cummings. Have you had a chance to look at the CARE Act we introduced recently, and any reactions to it you want to share with us?
First off, I'd like to appreciate the bill itself, and that it's very clear that we share a mutual goal of saving lives. And I think the bill speaks to that. And I'd love to be able to work with you, Chairman Cummings, and the rest of the committee to make sure that we're doing so in a way that is the most effective and efficient way to get help to people. And so I commend the heart and spirit of this bill.
Well, I just want to say I hope we can work on this on a bipartisan basis, Mr. Jordan, because this affects every one of our states. The stories, tragically, are the same. It knows no socioeconomic boundaries. It respects none. And we have got to save lives. We've got to try to get quick, effective treatment and try to turn this around. So it's got to be done on a bipartisan basis, and it's got to be done with the cooperation of the administration. So thank you for that reaction. I now call